Welcome to Geek News Reviews, Jupiter Ascending. This is Philip from Geek News. So what I'm going to do is give you a bit of a background on the movie, as well as overall my thoughts, the pros and the cons, and what I would recommend whether or not you all go and watch it or have any interest whether you should just wait till later or watch it now. All right, so Jupiter Ascending itself is a sci-fi fantasy movie. The main concept, I'm sure if you've all seen the previews, as there have been tons of them, is that it's about Jupiter Jones, Mila Kunis's character, who was born on Earth, but for some reason destined to be royalty. And so as a result of that, within the universe, it's not on Earth. That's kind of obvious in the trailers, but if you haven't seen the trailers, that's really the biggest concern. And as a result, so now you have what would amount to a large royal family fighting over power as a result of her. And so that's why you see all these crazy action scenes where Kane, aka Channing Tatum's character, saves her life only to realize the story is way more complicated as he does that and as the movie goes on. Overall, it's an action sci-fi fantasy with a little bit of romance. Your main antagonist is actually kind of surprising because it's a little hammed up, but it's Eddie Redmayne, who's currently nominated for Best Actor for Theory of Everything, where he played... well, I'll come back to that. Anyway, so he is nominated for that, but his character role in this, either somebody gave him poor direction or they told him to ham it up, because I don't really think you ham it up as much as he did in that movie. So what I would say, it's definitely, the pros are, it's fascinating world building. It's one of the more interesting science fiction narratives that I've seen in a while. The problem is they just don't delve into it enough. I think it's because I think they were probably directed that you have to fit all this in one movie. You don't get a franchise, you don't get anything, or there's no guarantees. And so as a result, they feel they have to tell a complete story. And from that perspective, they leave too much out. Because it's really interesting, the backstory they give for the humans. And the fact that we're much more ancient, that the fact that most of these planets, they kind of go back to the Matrix, which, good or bad, it's an interesting concept nonetheless, which is that they're creating essentially youth serum from humans, and they're a billion years old. Another great pro is great fight choreography. Some of the best. Oh, I wouldn't say some of the best, but very interesting. It's a very interesting action movie. And then the effects are amazing, which isn't really surprising from the Wachowskis. That's just usually common with them. So some cons. Unfortunately, the story is just not there. There is times where the dialogue is so super stilted that you're like, why is this even happening? It can be cheesy. It can actually make you laugh when you really shouldn't. That seems to be a little bit of the problem. Surprisingly, it wasn't the acting. Like, Tatum and Kunis actually did pretty good jobs in the role, as well as Sean Bean, who played another character. I don't really know how to describe him, because he's not really a villain, he's not really a hero, which is kind of interesting. But again, they don't give enough development to any of the other characters, which is another con, to actually for you to care. Mila Kunis you kind of care about and you can kind of respect her, but they never allow you to dive much into her character. I'd say probably the biggest emotional bang is right at the beginning of the movie, and then the rest of the characters just seem very shallow. And then again, this goes back into the villain was hammed up by Eddie Redmayne, and that kind of took away from the movie. Overall, I would say if you're into fun sci-fi action movies, and even with a little bit of, I wouldn't call it high fantasy because it's not impossible to believe, but it definitely is fantastical. I would say this is overall 6 out of 10. But if you're not into those, I definitely wouldn't go see it in the theater. I mean, I don't even know even if you're into it, that I'd recommend you go see it in the theater. I think if you're into science fiction, you probably should see it when it comes out on Blu-ray or DVD. Or maybe if you have a dollar theater in your area, it's worth it as well. Otherwise, I would say stay away from the theaters. just because it's not very good. It's fun. If you're just looking for a fun action movie, I would say this is fine. But that's not you're only going to have till this weekend, which is the 13th, February 13th, in the U.S. at least, when the Kingsman come out, and I think that's going to be a much better action movie. From all the early reviews I'm hearing, that's going to be a fun, great movie. So if you have to watch something before then, I would say that this is your option. Or if you really want a science fiction movie. But again, don't go there just for the science fiction. Go there for the action. All right, thank you. Hope everyone enjoys this. Comment, like, share if you'd like. Let me know if there's anything else I can offer in my future reviews or Geek News as a whole. Thank you again. This is Philip Ford signing off.